Temple Period Research Plan.
Cut 1.
Faith, Factions, and Empires. The religious and historical landscape of the First Temple Period Levant, circa 1586 BC. Introduction. Setting the scene of the First Temple Period Levant, circa 1586 BC. The First Temple Period, spanning roughly from the 10th to the early 6th centuries BCE, corresponding largely to the Iron Age II period, represents a formative epoch in the history of the ancient Levant. It witnessed the rise and fall of the Israelite kingdoms of Israel and Judah, the construction and eventual destruction of the Jerusalem Temple, and the complex evolution of Israelite religious identity amidst the powerful cultural and political currents of the ancient Near East. This era laid the foundations for theological concepts and historical narratives that would profoundly shape later Judaism and Christianity. Geographically situated at a crossroads between Mesopotamia, Egypt, and Anatolia, the kingdoms of Israel and Judah were constantly interacting with neighboring peoples, including Canaanites, Phoenicians, Arameans, Philistines, and the looming empires of Assyria and Babylonia. This report aims to provide a comprehensive overview of this pivotal period, synthesizing insights from biblical texts, ancient Near Eastern documents, epigraphic discoveries, and archaeological findings. It will explore the dynamic religious landscape, tracing the development of Yahwism from its polytheistic and henotheistic roots towards monotheism, examining the influence of the surrounding Canaanite religious matrix, and delving into the roles of key religious factions such as the monarchy, priesthood, and prophetic movements. Specific attention will be given to the significance of the Jerusalem Temple, its rituals, and the evidence for popular religious practices existing alongside the official cult. Furthermore, the report will investigate beliefs concerning the supernatural, including spirits and magic, and analyze the figure of Melchizedek in both biblical texts and later esoteric interpretations, considering the context of ancient mystery religions and traditions of hidden knowledge. Finally, it will situate these religious developments within their broader historical and social context, examining major political and military events, the complex nature of intertribal relations within Israelite society, and the archaeological evidence for daily life, social structures, and economic activities during this era. The First Temple period was characterized by profound dynamism and complexity. It was an age of religious transformation, marked by both syncretism and reform, coexistence and conflict. Politically, it saw the transition from a potentially unified kingdom under David and Solomon to two separate monarchies, Israel and Judah, whose histories were increasingly dominated by the rise and fall of regional empires. Understanding this intricate interplay between religion, politics, society, and culture is crucial for appreciating the unique legacy of the First Temple period. I. The dynamic religious world of Israel and Judah. A. The evolution of Yahwism. From henotheism to emerging monotheism. The religious landscape of the First Temple period was not static. Rather, it underwent significant development over several centuries. Emerging from the broader Canaanite cultural and religious milieu, the earliest phases of Israelite religion were demonstrably not monotheistic in the strict sense of denying the existence of other deities. The ancient Near East, including Mesopotamia, Syria, Lebanon, and Egypt, was overwhelmingly polytheistic, with complex pantheons headed by chief deities like El at Ugarit. Israel, as a small nation situated within this context and maintaining substantial contact with these cultures, initially participated in this shared religious worldview. Scholarly consensus, based on biblical, epigraphic, and comparative evidence, suggests that early Israelite religion is better characterized as henotheistic or monolatrous. These terms describe the practice of worshiping one primary deity, Yahweh, and demanding exclusive allegiance to him, while still acknowledging the existence and potential power of other gods within the divine assembly or pantheon. Foundational texts like the Ten Commandments, particularly the injunction, "You shall have no other gods before me," Exodus 20 verse 3, reflect this perspective. They mandate exclusive loyalty to Yahweh for Israel, but do not explicitly deny that other gods exist for other nations. Archaeological finds, such as Iron Age bull statuettes found in early Israelite contexts, e.g., the bull site in Samaria, could potentially represent Yahweh, El, or Baal, reflecting a fluidity in divine iconography and conception during the early monarchic period. The transition towards absolute monotheism, the belief in the existence of only one God, and the explicit denial of the reality of all others, was a gradual process. It appears to have gained significant traction later in the First Temple period, particularly from the 8th century BCE onwards, and consolidated especially during the crises of the late monarchy, reforms of Hezekiah and Josiah, and the Babylonian exile, 586 to 538 BC. This development was likely fueled by a complex interplay of factors. The teachings of prophets who emphasized Yahweh's universal sovereignty and condemned the worship of other deities, theological reflection attempting to understand historical catastrophes like the destruction of the northern kingdom of Israel in 722 BCE and later Judah as consequences of infidelity to Yahweh, and the centralizing political and religious agendas of reforming kings like Josiah. It is also crucial to recognize that religious belief and practice were not uniform across Israel and Judah at any given time. Synchronic variation existed alongside diachronic development. Archaeological evidence increasingly points to a distinction between official religion, centered on the royal court and the Jerusalem temple, especially after reforms, and popular religion, encompassing a wider range of beliefs and practices among the general populace, which may have included veneration of other deities or syncretic elements. Recent discoveries, such as a potential cultic site near the city of David operating outside the temple, underscore this diversity. Adding another layer of complexity are theories about Yahweh's own origins. While traditionally viewed as the God revealed to Moses, some scholarship explores potential roots in the southern Levant, possibly connecting Yahweh with Edomite or Midianite groups. One hypothesis links Yahweh specifically to the Kenite, a tribe associated with metalworking in the copper-rich regions of southeastern Canaan, suggesting Yahweh may have initially been a patron deity of metallurgists before becoming the national god of Israel. While debated, these theories highlight Yahweh's complex history before his rise to exclusive prominence. The traditional gradualist model, whereby a local clan deity, Yahweh, expands influence with his tribe's political success, eventually subordinating other gods until monotheism emerges, faces challenges. Unlike the rise of Marduk in Babylon, which coincided with Babylon's political ascendancy, early Israel lacked a single, dominant political center like Shechem that could explain the suppression of the entire Canaanite pantheon through sheer political expansion. The evidence from textual analysis and archaeology thus paints a picture not of a straightforward march towards monotheism, but rather a complex and often contested evolution. The path involved identifiable stages like henotheism, regional variations in practice, the persistent influence of older Canaanite beliefs, including the veneration of figures like Asherah alongside Yahweh, and periods of both reformist zeal pushing towards exclusivity and potential resistance or backsliding. External pressures from dominant empires like Assyria and internal dynamics driven by prophets, priests, and kings all shaped this trajectory. This intricate, nonlinear development offers a rich backdrop for understanding the diverse religious currents and potential conflicts within First Temple society, moving beyond a simplistic portrayal of uniform belief. B. The Canaanite religious matrix: deities, El, Baal, Asherah, and interactions. Israelite religion did not emerge in a vacuum but developed within the rich and complex religious environment of Canaan. Understanding the Canaanite pantheon and its beliefs is therefore essential for grasping the context and influences shaping early Yahwism. While knowledge is fragmentary, relying heavily on texts from Ugarit, dating earlier but reflecting related traditions, and archaeological finds, a general picture emerges. The Canaanite pantheon, like others in the Yeni, was hierarchical, headed by a chief deity. Key figures relevant to Israelite religion include El, widely regarded as the supreme god, the father of gods, and creator. He was often depicted as an elderly, bearded, wise figure, sometimes enthroned, presiding over the divine council. His abode was often associated with mountains. While supreme, his active role in myths like the Ugaritic cycles seems less prominent than that of Baal. Bull imagery was sometimes associated with El. Asherah, Ugaritic, Atharat El's principal consort, a major mother goddess associated with fertility, both human and terrestrial. She was linked with the sea, lions, and particularly trees and sacred groves, often represented by a stylized wooden pole or cold object, the Asherah mentioned frequently in the Bible. Archaeological finds include numerous female pillar figurines which may represent Asherah or related fertility goddesses. Baal, meaning Lord, often referring to Hadad, the dynamic storm god, responsible for rain, thunder, and lightning, crucial for agriculture in the Levant. He is famously depicted in Ugaritic texts like the Baal cycle, battling cosmic forces of chaos, notably Yam, sea, and Mot, death. His cyclical death and resurrection in myth mirrored the agricultural seasons of drought and rainfall, making his worship vital for ensuring fertility and sustenance. The influence of this Canaanite matrix on Israelite religion is undeniable and multifaceted. Biblical texts themselves, often through condemnation, attest to the persistent worship of Canaanite deities like Baal and Asherah among Israelites, sometimes even within the precincts of the Jerusalem temple. This interaction went beyond simple borrowing. Shared deities and conflation. Yahweh appears to have absorbed many attributes and titles originally belonging to El, the head of the Canaanite pantheon. Epithets like El Shaddai or El Elyon, God Most High, the title used by Melchizedek, were applied to Yahweh. This syncretism likely facilitated Yahweh's rise as the supreme deity within Israel. Syncretic worship. Archaeological and epigraphic evidence strongly suggests periods where Yahweh was worshipped alongside other deities, most notably Asherah, potentially viewed as his consort. See section I'd see. The biblical condemnation of Baal worship under kings like Ahab confirms its presence and influence. Cultic practices. Similarities existed in places and modes of worship. High places, Bamit, often condemned in the Bible, were common Canaanite cult sites also used by Israelites. The use of sacred standing stones, Masboth, and Asherah poles, Asherim, were features shared between Canaanite and Israelite practice, though later reforms targeted them. Sacrificial practices likely shared common roots. Mythological resonance. Certain biblical themes, such as Yahweh's cosmic battles against sea monsters, Leviathan, Rahab, may echo or polemically rework Canaanite myths like Baal's conflict with Yam. Archaeological discoveries provide tangible evidence of this interaction. Cult stands from sites like Tanakh and Megiddo display iconography that blends different traditions, potentially depicting Yahweh, Baal, or El, sometimes associated with solar or bovine imagery. Numerous pillar figurines found in Judahite contexts are often interpreted as representations of Asherah or Astarte, suggesting popular veneration related to fertility. The inscriptions from Kuntalit Edrud and Khirbet Elkom offer the most direct evidence for the co-veneration of Yahweh and Asherah. While the dominant biblical narrative, particularly the Deuteronomistic history, Joshua Kings, presents Canaanite religion primarily as a dangerous source of apostasy and idolatry, meriting divine judgment and destruction, this perspective must be understood as partly polemical. It represents the viewpoint of specific theological streams, particularly those advocating for Yahweh's exclusive worship. The very intensity of the condemnation confirms the reality and appeal of these alternative religious expressions within Israelite society. The archaeological and epigraphic data, when juxtaposed with the biblical text, reveal a significant tension. Discoveries like the Kuntalit Edrud inscriptions, the Khirbet Elkom blessings, and the prevalence of female figurines strongly indicate that for many Israelites, perhaps even at official levels at certain times, the worship of Yahweh coexisted with and was integrated into a broader religious framework that included figures like Asherah and practices derived from their Canaanite heritage. This lived reality appears considerably more syncretic than the idealized, strictly monotheistic or monolatrous picture presented in parts of the Bible, particularly those shaped by later reforming movements like the Deuteronomists. This discrepancy suggests that the official religion promoted by certain factions, prophets, reformers, may have been an ideal struggling against a more complex and syncretistic popular reality. This inherent conflict between the prescribed ideal and the actual practice offers fertile ground for exploring themes of religious diversity, hypocrisy, the political motivations behind religious reform, and the genuine beliefs held by different segments of First Temple society.